My gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation. I'm sure our gentlemen would have to unmute. Kojo Poku, Wisdom Dogbe.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, Kojo. I can hear your wisdom as well. Kojo Poku, why do I get the feeling you are not in your usual spot at home? You are somewhere else. Are you on tour?
I'm not. I'm on the bus of possibilities. We are in the central region and sharing the good news of the #1 candidate, Hesroho candidate.
Okay, all right. I hope it's going well in that region.
No, very well. It's going very well. I mean, you see the reception. This is what campaign is about, and this is what election is about. We are doing what we need to do, and we hope Ghanaians will also do what they have to do on the 7th of December.
All right. Thank you. Before I come for your first thoughts, Wisdom, good morning. Good to have you.
Good morning. Sweetie, I want us to serve these people this morning. A phonama.
Ma follow lucky. Lucky or fun dear.
Looking for favors this morning, Abi.
Oh, but a day wanna Alabama bluff man no TV agitari.
Looking for favors this morning.
Okay, so Wisdom Dogbe, you've sought to stoke Kojo Poku, and already the fire is starting. Please, calm down, because this one I don't know. He's already saying you are starting to court favors and all of that.
Nah.
But let's start with your brief thoughts, Wisdom Dogbe. Very brief, Kojo, very brief. Then we come into the studio. Wisdom, starting with you, very briefly.
Ben, I heard yesterday was Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day, so I will call on all Ghanaians to continue to celebrate the legacy of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. He has indeed set the pace, and if only some of our leaders today can emulate him or even achieve a fraction of his accomplishment, I think we'll see a lot of development in Ghana and in Africa as a whole. He believed in the importance of African unity and putting the nation first. So I think that we need our leaders today to also put Ghana first in all that they do in their positions. Also, I heard that the Ghana Armed Forces has begun their enlistment. It is my hope and prayer that they would enlist based on meritocracy instead of what we heard some time ago, that party faithfuls are being enlisted into the nation's security jobs. That is not good for the independence and integrity of our security agencies, if that is true. And so I trust that that is not the case with the GAF enlistment.
All right, thank you for those thoughts. I would just like to say that, you know, this recruitment thing, it's not just the military, it's not just the police, it's not just immigration, and it's not just now. It has been happening for a long time. I'm not trying to justify or say it is right, but it's something that we really need to tackle. It's not an MPP problem. It's a Ghana problem. And sometimes the very people who will protest are the very people whose family members are seeking entry and who will use political means to get there. In the past, we've had politicians come and say, oh, I've even got this number of people and they are graduating today, and all those things paint a certain picture. And that is why it's also problematic. If a few days ago, sweetie, you remember there was a photo of a policewoman when the balloting had happened at the EC, and a camera caught her, you know, celebrating the number one. She forgot she was in uniform. You get it. Police people, they also vote. They are free to,
like us.
But when you are in the uniform, and that's why I like the MPs, the military police. Have you seen them in action before? Even if they know you, when they see you anywhere or in traffic, they don't know you.
Yeah, the professionalism.
When the uniform is off, then you can, but once they are at post, the professionalism, and all of those things seep in because of some of these things. So they are not bad from being political, but they are not supposed to be openly political, especially in uniform. That's it. So we have to watch those things. Kojo Poku, quick thoughts?
Well, yeah, continuing from where I let off, I want to say a big thank you to the people of Efutu and the central region as a whole, where they are hosting us, and the bus of possibilities stopped in Gomoa West, Gomoa East yesterday. Beautiful reception. Efutu was a roadblock. We can't thank them enough. Everybody is doing their best. But
so you are in your majority leader's constituency?
Yes, we were in Afija Markin's constituency. He called it Duku Day. So he wanted everybody to put on a Duku. Unfortunately, some of us might get into problem if we try to put on that Duku. So
what are you afraid of?
Well, I'm afraid of our former president seeing me and calling me and thinking that I'm something that I'm not. So that's what I'm afraid of. So look, the good thing I want to go on that professionalism thing that you talked about. I think we need to commend the Ghana police for what they've been through in the last 2 days at the 37, Friday and Saturday, being provoked to the hill, their car keys being taken and thrown away, and all that they stood, and we all saw how they acted professionally. The good thing is that all those perpetrators, all those people who lied to Ghanaians that they are demonstrating against democracy, but they knew what their real intention was, have all been put behind bars, and they are in the cooler this morning, will be arraigned before the court today. We should commend the police for a good job done. And I think I would also entreat all the MPP youth. I know tension is high. Our posters, paraphernalia, everything were destroyed. But look, the message we give them is that election is about campaigning. It's about ideas, about bold solutions. What Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is doing around the country, and that is how we should conduct this election. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Suti Abochi, I agree with him on don't vandalize stuff. Yeah, I always say that. I was saying yesterday, if you embark on what is meant to be a peaceful demonstration and then you end up doing these things, then you make it more difficult the next time. Because as for the right, it's not in the hands of the police. They don't determine who can or can't go on demonstration. We all have the right. But of course, they have to give certain guidance. They don't give permission. They give guidance so that you don't disturb, other people who also have the right to enjoy. I felt the impact of this because on Sunday I was going to church. I had to use a long route to get to church. I was late and all that. But the point, there was something Kojo actually said about, why has this just skipped me? I wanted to get back on something you said. Kojo, what was the last point you made on this demonstration?
I said that they are all been arrested this morning and they will be arraigned before court.
There's something else you said. It escapes me when it comes to mind.
Yeah, I just wanted
get
to
it
say
because
that,
I felt that one, no.
I mean, we'll start there. The story is right here on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times. But before that, I think sometimes in the quest to make the news or in the quest to make their voices heard or make a stronger statement, these protesters need something to happen that, it's not as peaceful as...
You don't need
but you see, no. Let her make a point. Let her make a point, Kojo. Kojo, let her make a point.
Kojo, I'm speaking now.
Kojo
Thank you.
Poku,
No,
please.
don't do that.
Benjamin,
What you are
let
trying
her
to do,
make her point.
Let her make a journalist
you-
on national TV, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Sweetie,
Please
make
don't
your
do it.
point.
Benjamin, I saw a video where Oliver Bakavamawo went to the police van or something and then took the key off and then ran. Did you see that video?
Yes.
I thought to myself, this doesn't augur well for you as an individual and for the
It's a
people
desperate
who
move.
poured out onto the streets to, register peacefully their, concerns about this Galamsey issue. If you do that, not only are you inciting violence, but you're rendering the entire protest and the intent for it ridiculous. I felt that...
Not to mention that he was endangering...
Yes, the
because
lives
you
of
see,
people.
Those actions also may get the police service to act. They can use a certain measure of force.
And
that's what people...
guy who was just going at it, and I thought,
Exactly.
God, I hope the police don't retaliate, because if they did, that guy would be torn into pieces by now.
You see, I realize that in the exercise of democracy, and we've seen it. I've seen demonstrations in the United States where people have gone to sit in front of certain entities, companies, and refused to move, formed human barriers, and refused to move till many days after. Even the police were there, they refused, and they had to be basically picked up and taken for days.
Yeah.
Blocking. I remember there was such an incident, and there was those concrete mixers, the big vehicle, the beton ones that have to get through. And they had blocked it. And that type of thing, if it doesn't go within a certain, all of it goes waste.
So
but
the point I was trying to make is that don't use these activities as a way of making a stronger statement that you think you need, but really does not augur well for the people out there, the police service, and really the intent behind pouring out on the street. We are just saying peacefully, we are coming out to register our displeasure, stop Galamsey. If you do that, what message are you sending across? Anyway, let's get into it. I'll start there. So police arrest 42 Democracy Hub protesters. And before I get into it, on the front page, on agricultural productivity, and this is the Ghanaian Times, and food security, PFJ, Planting for Food and Jobs, 0.20 initiative makes giant strides as grains, livestock, poultry, egg production soar nationwide, according to Brian Champon. I'll get there in a bit. But let me start with the Democracy Hub. 42 police arrest 42 Democracy Hub protesters. And we don't undermine contestants in elections, according to the EC chair, and reform laws on international arbitration that may urges African countries. Let me get back to that story. At least 42 members of the Democracy Hub were apprehended by the police for allegedly participating in various unlawful activities at the 37 intersection in Accra last Sunday. The identities of these individuals have not been disclosed, but they're currently in custody, assisting with ongoing investigations. According to police reports, these demonstrators had unlawfully gathered at the 37 intersection, where they were reportedly assaulting police officers who were executing their official duties and obstructing traffic. I'll get there in a bit. I'll come to you, gentlemen, for your reflections on this. Let me do the story about Planting for Food and Jobs making giant strides. I don't know what magic happened, but let me get into the story a bit and see what it's talking about. Brian Champon is saying that the Planting for Food and Job Phase 2 has made significant strides in boosting agricultural productivity and food security in Ghana. And he says, quote, "We are committed to continuing to support farmers through our projects and other initiatives to ensure that Ghana becomes self-reliant in food production." And speaking at a missions exit meeting with the African Development Bank officials, the Food and Agriculture Minister indicated that significant strides had been made in boosting agricultural productivity and food security in Ghana through the Planting for Food and Jobs. Just one question, and I'll end there and I'll come to you, gentlemen. Isn't there a looming food crisis where they've deployed military officials to our borders to ensure that grains are not being exported illegally out of this country? Isn't there a ban on that? So what significant strides have we made that has boosted our agricultural gains? Brian Champon. Anyway, gentlemen, I'll start with you, Wisdom Dogbe.
So let me go to the Democracy protest item. Look, I strongly condemn any acts of lawlessness and hooliganism, riot, and violence, period. But let me start by saying that the demonstration was planned to bring attention to the severe economic hardship, which is disproportionately affecting the youth in the country, and also to call on the authorities to take action against Galamsey and its impact on our natural resources, especially on our water bodies. So these brave citizens, of course, some of them were breaking the law. They should be dealt with. But those that were not breaking the law, right, they were protesting against these things. Galamsey, these numerous taxes, nepotism, and corruption of biblical proportions in the nation, high inflation, and the general lack of leadership in terms of economic management of the nation. Of course, I agree that all protests must be peaceful and within the confines of the law. But I need someone to tell me what is wrong with this plan that our people want to protest these issues that affect them the most. The police have guidelines that govern how our protests are conducted. So why are the police and our officials, why were they so much afraid of the voices of the youth? You know what, sweetie? Indeed, any corrupt official should be afraid of the voices of the youth. They are absolutely right to fear because the power belongs to the people, not to the government. And I'll call on those who embark on this protest peacefully to fully understand that they are not powerless. Indeed, they have so much power, but that power is at the ballot box to vote for the candidate who they believe can change their economic fortunes and boldly address the critical socioeconomic and also environmental issues that face the country, such as the canker of Galamsey.
Okay. Any reflections on food security that the minister is touting as some of the beneficiaries of PFJ 2.0? Or should I move?
So just as you said, the last time I checked, you know, the nation was in, we have food crisis going on today. We are deporting our security agencies to the borders to ensure that folks are not smuggling grain out of the country. So I want to make sure that when we read these things, we also do some kind of research on our own to understand that these things are not election year comments. These are realities, right? I don't know what the minister said. I don't know if that is true. I'm going to do my own research to understand what he said.
Okay.
I'm happy you ended on the note. I'm happy you ended on the note of.
Let me just add some facts from the story before you come in. So he says that the project has also recorded impressive yields of 146,205 metric tons of maize, 38,913 metric tons of rice, and 13,860 metric tons of soybean harvested from farmers' yields. These are grains, and there is a ban on the exports of grains.
These are facts.
Make it make sense.
These are facts and data. Look. There is, and I'm glad you put out there that you're going to do a research. And I think people should do their research before they talk about certain things. As we speak, there are no food crises in Ghana. As we speak, there's no food shortage in Ghana.
Okay.
Look, when the rain patterns in the north, where our grain basket is from, changes, and being forward-looking, we need to have a stock because we don't know what would happen. When the rain pattern changes, you need to take precautionary measures. It doesn't mean that today anybody can tell me where you go and you can't find what you want. There's no food shortages in Ghana. There's no food crisis in Ghana. We can get everything we want in this country. So what are we talking about?
2 weeks ago, there was a story from the Western North.
Please, let me finish, please.
Go ahead.
What the minister took to do was to take precautionary measures so we don't ship out grains that we might need in the future because we don't know what the rain pattern will affect. That statement of what the minister said and taking measures is precautionary. It doesn't mean that today we have food. No, you don't have a question for me.
No,
I didn't ask you a question.
Are you saying that the rain pattern has not affected productivity?
Wisdom. Let him land, and then you can.
The most important thing is that as we speak, we do not have food crisis in Ghana. Okay. Everybody can get whatever they want. And the numbers that Mrs. Abochi put out there, they are facts. Now, I'm glad you said that you need to research. The planting for food has chopped major successes. You don't need to sit in Accra and make those conclusions. Go into the rural areas, speak to farmers and listen to the impact the supply of fertilizer, the supply of seed, supply of resources has made to planting for food. Right. So let's put that one aside. Now, on the issue of the demonstration, look, this demonstration was never meant to be peaceful. You see, let me speak to the youth of Ghana for a minute. In this country, we have what you call police intelligence. The police have picked up intelligence from day one on the kind of people these people were recruiting to demonstrate. So that intelligence was there. So the reason the police, yes, they can't stop people from demonstrating, but clearly their fears were laid to bear. The police had intelligence that based on the people these people were recruiting to demonstrate, this is what their intentions were.
And you know this for a fact that they were recruiting people? You know this for a fact?
Yes, we know that for a fact. Yes, the police had intelligence. We know that for a fact. The police had intelligence.
Where is your evidence?
Recruiting people to do this.
Where is your evidence?
And the most important thing is that
Kojo, where is your evidence?
After the fact, hold on. We now all know that after the fact, these were not ordinary demonstrators. We know people who stop cars and say that we won't let anybody pass here.
Okay,
which peaceful demonstration ends up doing that?
So you have made your point about what you know. I was asking you for evidence. Where is your evidence?
Well, my brother, those are security matters. Let's move on.
They are security matters.
But you can sit on national television.
You can allege
about recruitment.
You
can allege, but you can't adduce evidence.
I don't need to prove it because it's happened.
No, but you can't come on TV and say they were sponsored by X and Y person when you don't have evidence.
Do you think that those hoodlums on the street were ordinary protesters?
Okay, so let me ask you, do you think that in other protests under different regimes, all the people who hit the streets were from the opposition back then, which would have been the NPP?
All the people that hit
the street
did not do what these guys did. Tell me a protest where
Occupy Ghana, were all of them MPP members? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm asking you a question. Tell me a protest in Ghana that they did what these guys did. Tell me, what protest in Ghana?
So because, what exactly did they do? Because someone took a car key from the police?
Of the opposition party.
You've never seen any demonstration where they burned stuff?
Tell me which protests have done that.
Anyway, Let me just say this. First of all, on the bit about, and now I've remembered what I was going to mention. When I saw there was this gentleman, ripping banners of Dr. Bawumia, I felt that was totally sad. And he has to be dealt with, actually. You can't go doing something like that. But the way Kojo Poku sounded when he got there, because in the last 3 months, in fact, you remember there were instances where former President Mahama's billboards, and then I have seen same in Efutu, the very constituency you were in yesterday, the other candidates on the NDC side. So these things happen. I've also heard of some where MPP members are saying, this has happened. Let's not politicize it. What is wrong. Say it as it is, but don't act like it is only one side that is known for doing it. But I have a quick question for you, Kojo, very quick question. Do you know the difference between food security and food sufficiency?
Yes.
What is the difference?
But we don't have any of that in Ghana.
What is the difference?
That's all I have to tell you.
What is the difference?
I don't need to go into grammar, but we don't have any of that. Food security and food sufficiency. Hold on.
Wisdom, hold for me.
Food security. If you want me to get into it, I can get into it. Food security, right?
No, I just wanted to know whether you had an understanding of it before making the point you were making. And including when you said, Ghana is not Accra. We are in Accra. What we see is reflective.
Planting for food has given us food security. Planting for food has given us food security. The point that the minister made was to make sure. The point the minister made was to make sure that the food security is sustained.
All right.
Wisdom.
No problem.
Here's the point.
Wisdom.
I don't think that you are entirely right on this, right? As we speak, the CEO of Ghana Agribusiness is watching this, and he just sent me a text that what is this guy talking about? We don't have food security in Ghana.
Mention his name and stop hiding. Mention his name. Who sent you a text?
Look,
mention his name. Who sent you a text?
Anthony Morrison. You can go find
Anthony Morrison sent you a text saying what?
He just sent me a text. He said, for us to be able to attain food security, there should be accessibility, affordability, availability, and stability. Are you trying to tell me that food is affordable as it is today?
So we are now going into affordability as a problem in Ghana today. So the affordability is the problem.
Criteria that we need to look at if we are going to talk about food security.
Please, let's move on. Guys,
gentlemen, so I just want to put something in perspective.
The man who buys
2 weeks ago,
the man who buys yam for $30.
Hold for me a second. 2 weeks ago, there was a report from the Western North. And the report was basically telling us the story of how locals were selling their grains to foreigners and defying that ban, for which reason a ball of kinky now, they couldn't find grain because people wanted to make money, and so they're selling. Also because of the shortage of these grains, they were selling their produce to foreigners, defying the ban. And it came to the attention of, I think, security personnel who were trying to reinforce security measures in the Western North. I even spoke to the correspondent, and he says that because of that, there's a hike in food prices, and a ball of kinky in Western North was selling for 7 Ghana cedis.
Do you know how much a long car of rice costs today?
So, Kojo, I just want you to
let's
that we're not
gentlemen. Hello. No. It's fine.
Let me make a quick statement.
On the back page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, heartbreak winless. We're done with that. Heartbreak winless run with Bechem United win. Kotoko shares spoils with Young Apostles. There are some other stories about Inkosek launches 60th anniversary, calls on government to invest in schools, facilities, and so on and so forth. Jean Mensah is saying we don't undermine contestants in elections. You can pick a copy of the Ghanaian Times and get into the stories. Benjamin.
Sweetie Awaji, permit me to do this.
Benjamin.
I don't want. Permit me to do this. Kojo Poku, Wisdom Dogbe, I'm giving you an extra 30 seconds. You want to say something, Kojo, go ahead. Kojo Poku, if you can hear me.
Right, can you hear me?
Please go ahead. Yes, I can hear
you. Okay. In the Krowo constituency near Amasamai, they have an onion market. We were there last week. When we got there, there is a basket full of onions, 150 Ghana cedis. I was surprised. Look, I took a picture and sent to my wife. He said, Kojo, please get some. Because in where we live around Adenta, they put 4 together for 20 cedis. Just less than.
So what you are saying is, what you are saying is those in Adenta where you live are actually deceiving the public. They are cheating the public. That's what you're saying, right?
We are ripped off in the urban areas. And I'm giving you close proximity.
I'm really surprised that
a basket of onions is 150 cedis. In Adenta, they put 4 for 20 cedis. It is urban living. It is urban living. Some of us, and those are some of the
your
things.
Your 30 seconds are up. Wisdom, hold your horses, Wisdom. Hold for me. You see, when this conversation about, it is better in the rural areas comes up, sometimes I get...
rural. This is just outskirts.
Kojo, you've made your point. I'm saying, hold on. There are times you go to other areas, and I remember there was this conversation we had, and people who had just come from up north, I've forgotten where specifically, were saying that even the prices of, what commodity was it? I don't think it was yam, some commodity. Here, it was way higher up there. They were buying it for about 10 cedis or something more. So this conversation sometimes, yes, in some areas you get it a bit cheaper, but in most parts, some of these commodities, especially when they are not in season, the prices reflect across the board. Wisdom, you have 30 seconds, and then we move on.
I think this is the issue. If you see an issue, if you know of a problem, if you cannot speak directly to the root cause or even acknowledge the fact that there is a problem, how can you solve it? Here is a situation, Kojo, that you and your candidate you are running to improve the cost of the standard of living of Ghanaians and reduce their cost of living. And you can't even sit on national television and simply agree that the cost of food is higher today than it was before you guys came to power. I see that as very, very troubling. If you cannot acknowledge that, I don't know how you can solve this for Ghanaians. And Ghanaians should take note of this. When they go to the booth, that their leaders are not able to acknowledge the fact that they are going to staff difficulties. How then can they solve their problems?
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for those points. I don't think, though, that there is a lack of admission that the cost of living is higher.
The food prices is not as high, man.
No, but he's not saying it is not high. He's not saying it is not high. Let's get into the Daily Graphic. Are you done with the Daily Guide newspaper?
Ghanaian Times.
The Ghanaian Times newspaper, I beg your pardon. APC will prioritize people's welfare. That's according to Ayariga. VRA senior staff petition speaker over proposed merger towards good parliamentary democracy. Hybrid system won't work, Justice Dotse asserts. Make Africa arbitration hub for foreign cases. That's according to the Attorney General. Then on the back page, Nat Cancer Foundation to raise $10 million to fight disease. And in Nsawam prison receives carpentry equipment from German embassy and the POS Foundation. Let me start from there. So the German embassy has handed over equipment worth 6,000 euros to the carpentry lab of the Nsawam medium security prison. The modern items, which include circular saw, large angle grinder, jigsaw, sander, miter saw, impact drill, table saw, would replace the obsolete and traditional carpentry tools, such as a hammer in the lab. Sweetie, one of the things that, gets me really worried has to do with, our prisons are meant to reform, get people, and sometimes people, the rehabilitation includes acquiring a skill so that when they go and when they return into society,
they can reintegrate.
They can reintegrate properly so that recidivism will not be the general case. But when you look at our prisons system, even if you go to the pre-colonial period, the colonial period, and what we have now, I don't see the sort of progress that, even in terms of the soft skills or whatever that they need to acquire, a lot of them don't have that. The prisons are so crammed. Operation Efiase, I don't know whether it is still working. And the state of our prisons and the numbers, we have the judicial processes to try and slow the numbers. But honestly, if you look at our prisons and how men and women there have to live, it's inhumane. It is not humane. And I don't think we are sort of targeting this properly. Every now and then, you would see some churches helping. I have done prison rounds, so I know. From Nsawam to James, even St. James Camp, right here, close to the Senior Correctional Center, and all of that. I've been there on numerous occasions, but sometimes it's pathetic. As for them, they are pretty well. You go into some of these maximum and medium security prisons, and you've committed a crime, yes, but
they entered.
It's something else.
Right.
Let me also get into this. A retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Jones Dotse, says the current hybrid parliamentary system, where members of parliament can serve both the executive and legislative arms of government at the same time, will not work for Ghana's democracy and good governance. In fact, if you look at it, separation of powers, Baron de Montesquieu, doesn't really fit the picture, but it's what we have. Now, he says he's urging Ghanaians to choose between a pure presidential system, where the president appoints ministers from outside parliament, or a parliamentary system, where all ministers come from parliament. This, he believed, would do away with the hybrid system where some ministers come from parliament and others are picked from outside. And that's the key point there. Let me wrap with Ayariga, and then we can come to our guests. APC will prioritize people's welfare. That's according to Ayariga. And he has launched his party's manifesto for the 2024 polls, outlining a series of policies which, according to him, will prioritize the welfare of Ghanaians and transform the country. And it was dubbed the nation's manifesto. So 3 stories, the prisons story and the donation. Hybrid system won't work, according to Justice Dotse, and APC and their manifesto. Any quick thoughts, Kojo?
Yes, I think that the prison, the rehabilitation of inmates is key. It's something that among the many troubles that we have in this country, we've overlooked. And I think the prison service should be resourced to basically rehabilitate the inmates. Some people are hardened criminals. They go in there and come back even more hardened because they meet all sorts of people. Some people are not, maybe by just virtue of something happens, they get in there, they come out worse. So we need to be able to reform the prison system. And I think it's sad, like Ben, you mentioned, when you look at the conditions, even the cells, forget the main prison, the cells, when you have the holding cells where sometimes some people are in holding cells for months and it's overcrowded in those holding cells. So we need to look at that immensely. The next one,
I guess the politicians are only concerned when they themselves start ending up there. That is the only time they start getting concerned.
I have been concerned about that, and I'm even.
I'm not referencing you in particular. I'm just saying that sometimes it takes going there.
I'm not a politician, so it's okay.
All right, you are moving on to the next subject.
Yes, I think I prefer the presidential system. I think as a nation, if we look at where we are with the kind of constitution that we have, the presidential system will work best for us, so that people who go to parliament will concentrate on the work of legislation and approving bills and laws. So for me, my personal favorite, but then
So you are opting for a pure presidential system, a pure presidential
system, yes. Okay. A pure presidential system. I think that will work best looking at the constitution that we have. Because we cannot we can amend the constitution. We can't throw out the entire constitution and bring out a new constitution, which will now reinstate, because it will be too much destructive going towards the parliamentary. The parliamentary system. I think the easier route is to go for the presidential. That's my thoughts anyway. So look, the number one on the ballot, has preached that when he comes in, he's going to look at the basically training of the TVET, ensure that TVET is done. And we have already put our manifesto out there. So I don't know why it is now that Mr. Ayariga is doing his one. In terms of, what was your last point that you talked about?
Mahama Ayariga, that was the last point.
Yes, okay, yeah. So he basically has now put out his...
the nation's manifesto.
There's only two contestants in this election. There is the NDC and the MPP. The rest are just others. Ghanaians will basically no, they are honest, please. I mean, let's move on from that.
No, but for the sake of,
so look,
if you look at the numbers in the past, you could say that. But for the sake of respecting the other candidates, should you be? Because anything could happen, you know, and especially in an election like ours, this one where you have an Alan Chemanteng and his own following. I don't want to mention some of the other independent candidates, but all of these groupings, the CPP, for example, yesterday, Madam Kubankuma was here. She said she's going to win and all of that. If you start this and maybe as your survey reveals that they are neck and neck, Mahama and Baumia, and if there's a runoff, they will show you something.
Well, Ben, let me make a point. Look, Ben, in the beginning of the year, there's been many surveys. In the beginning of the year, there are surveys that show that our candidate was not visible in August, in July, this survey that everybody's talking about was probably picked up in July. It means that our candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has made significant strides. He's basically had a lot of visibility, and he is hitting the ground running. And now, if in July we are neck and neck, I mean, it's good news in the point, but let's look at the finish line. You know what I mean? That's the most important thing.
Wisdom, please, your take on these matters, and then Sweetie will come back in.
But I understand the point Justice Dotse was making, that a hybrid parliamentary system will not work, where the MPs are also appointed to cabinet or executive arm of the government. I see his point, and I think he's right, except that I see some advantage in the current system as well. In the US, for example, a member of Congress typically resigns to focus on a cabinet position once he or she is appointed. So there is a lot of data to support the position but
not always, predominantly, but not always. So it's good you said typically.
For the most part. So I think it's right because of the issue of conflict of interest. First of all, these officials most definitely will face dual responsibilities, balancing the obligations of the cabinet duties to that of the constituents and the legislative process.
Right.
So I think that it could lead to reduced legislative oversight, because a sitting MP may compromise the independence of the legislative body, which could weaken the oversight functions, because they may be less inclined to question or challenge the executive actions, right? They are part of the executive body, so they will not be challenging the executive in any way, shape, and form.
Right.
With that said, the upside that I see to these government officials wearing double hats is that they can also enhance communication and bridge the gap between the executive and also the legislative branch.
Okay.
They have a dual role, which may help them in fostering better communication and also collaborate on policy matters.
All right. Thank you very much.
I wanted to make a quick comment on the arbitration hub the AG was talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, I don't always agree with the Attorney General, but this is one area that I think is spot on. He's calling for making an African arbitration hub, right, for foreign cases. And I agree with him on this one. And for some time now, I think this is a concept that has gained traction with calls from both the academia and also industry to make Africa a hub for arbitration. So I am glad that the AG, who is obviously one of the top legal brains in the country, I'll give that to him, is adding his voice to this call that I believe is driven by the continent's growing economic importance and also increasing investment and also the need for efficient dispute resolution mechanism in the country.
I believe for once Kojo Poku agrees with you. Kojo.
Well, I agree on the part where he's actually saying good things about the Attorney General who he bastardized all the time. So I'm happy that at least in his own research,
that is it.
And that's research. So he's researched and agreed that the Attorney General is one of the best in the country, which is a good thing.
Okay, well, it's all right. It's all right, Wisdom.
Benjamin,
it's okay.
You're enjoying this a bit.
I like when I have Kojo and Wisdom on. They simply make my day. But it sort of also reminds me of, you know, the credit ratings agencies. And again, the call to have, though, yes, you can't take out the Fitch, the S&P, and Standard & Poor's and all of those. We must also have some African setup. I believe our president has been pushing for that, so that you can have yours here, the other ones, and you can compare and contrast. I don't think it's a problem. So I agree. This is a good call.
Let me quickly run through the Daily Guide newspaper. On the front, this is where I have a bit of problem. I mean, it says 43 NDC protesters grabbed. IGP police giving thumbs up. How do you know that all these 43 individuals are NDC protesters? As
for that bit, it is. I'm sorry, nonsensical to say that. And that's the point I was making with Kojo Poku earlier. I mean, the woman, the grandmother with her children, the 8 and 10-year-olds, so the child is also an NDC. I mean, you could say, yes, she took them along, but I feel those are the downsides of what happened. And I don't like that, how the children were handled. But apart from that, I salute the Ghana Police Service. They did a yeoman's job. But some of those little angles, they left a lot to be desired for me.
Right. So that's the story there, and I'm saying to Daily Guide
So
that
I think it would be a very dangerous thing for us to think it's only the NDC members that are affected by the economic conditions of this nation. We need to call that out very clearly. If you live in Ghana, you are you are experiencing what is going on today, right? Even if you are not talking about it, whether you are NDC, CPP, or whatever, this is what the leaders have brought on the people, the suffering, the untold hardship. And everyone needs to talk about it. It's not just NDC people.
Right. And I'm just saying that it would have been okay.
So, gentlemen, we have just about 2.5 minutes. We can't keep going back and forth. I beg you. We have just about 2.5 minutes.
He came in and I have to say something small.
If each time someone comes in, we want the other person to come in. We'll never finish.
My brother sits in America. It's very unfortunate when my brother sits in America and talks about untold hardship in Ghana.
So
but you know he comes to town from time to time,
I have in Ghana. You have an idea how much interest I have in Ghana.
All right, gentlemen, let me wrap with this. 2024 presidential race, Baumia picks top spot, Mahama 8th. The reason I wanted to do this story on a very light note. So I had some children accompany a woman come to my house yesterday to help me out with some things. And she was saying that she's an NPP member. And so when she goes to the ballot this 7, 8 years they call. And I'm saying to her,
are you serious?
And I'm saying to her, 8 years they call number 8. So I say yes. And I'm saying that, but NPP is not on number 8. But I said the campaign, almost year 8. That's miscommunication. That's misinformation.
Ms. Abuchi, that's a lie. You see,
no.
This thing, that's a lie.
She's not an educated woman.
That's a lie.
Oh, were you there with me?
We are on live television.
Were you there with me?
You don't have evidence of that, please.
So it was a child.
Dr. Baumia is number 1.
Kojopoku, please.
Let's move on from
Let's be decorous. You are the first person.
Kojopoku.
I started by saying that I wanted to share an experience.
Should we mute you?
How do you know this is
You would be the first person talking about being decorous or you come out on live television and say someone is a liar. I mean,
no, I'm not saying it's a liar. I'm not saying it's a liar. I said the story he's telling is totally.
But this is a story I'm telling from my experience.
It's on social media. This is a social.
No. Did you hear me say social media? Did you hear me say social media, Kojo? I'm telling you that someone came to my house and said, we're just talking because NDC was having some, one of those people who go around like town criers.
Yeah.
And she was saying that she was not going to listen to them. So that's what started the conversation. So I asked, who are you voting for? And she said NPP. Number 8, Tanya, they're going.
I mean, the reality is.
Most people still think that number 8 should be associated, is on the ballot, is for the NPP. You have a lot of work to do. That's all I'm trying to say. You have a lot of work to do to correct that.
And I think, whichever way it is, the parties have to sensitize their members. And they actually succeed a lot. I mean, I've seen Esroho, Asieho, now Alan is Asieho. Yeah. His party will have to do the sensitization. Yeah. The NDC will work on the 8 and try and let it pour sand in the gari of the MPP. The MPP will try to capitalize on number 1. Let's leave the political parties to do their work. We are not politicians. Let them do their work.
I did say that I was saying this on a lighter note. Kojo, calm down. Let's wrap up. Benjamin.
Economy Times.
When I see social media propaganda being repeated on TV, I get worried.
Okay, for you it is propaganda, but you cannot determine whether or not this woman came to her. So let's leave it at that. Economy Times. Banking sector fraud continues to surge, both in volumes and value. Wisdom, I'll come to you. I just want to read the headlines. Bank of Ghana likely to slash policy rate, and government touts 6.9% Q2 economic growth. And that is it. Final reactions, gentlemen. Wisdom, you get your take, and we're gone.
Ben, the position on the ballot paper matters, right? But I personally don't think that it matters that much, especially if voters are well educated on the process and they know who they want to cast their ballots for. So I don't think the political parties should dwell too much on the ballot positions of their candidates, Kojo. You see, regardless of who wins these elections, they have such a humongous task ahead of them to steer the nation towards responsible economic recovery and economic opportunity for all. And I know former President Mahama fully understands this. He knows that the task ahead is really unlike anything that we've seen in recent times. And there will be no honeymoon. Okay. In fact, I had the opportunity to sit down with former President Mahama just recently, right? And we discussed mainly his plans for the nation. And I got out of that meeting appreciating his desire to leverage his experiences to help fix the economy and provide economic opportunity for all. So it's really not about a position on the ballot paper per se, but what are the candidates' position on the issues that affect the average Ghanaian the most? Okay. And I think that is what former President Mahama is focused on for the most part.
All right. With a smile on Kojo's face, I know exactly how he's going to start. Right.
My brother wisdom levels don't change. He had the opportunity to sit personally with former president. He's a big man. You know, look.
That tells you he's a down-to-earth leader.
Kojo, your point, and then we can go.
He's frozen.
It appears
you
Kojo
guys don't uniform me. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Please go ahead. Go.
Okay, sorry. Go. You know, what the people don't seem to understand, and they don't seem to get why the NDC is upset, is that in the MPP case, it brings uniformity. Because Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia picked number 1, it means all parliamentary candidates across the 276 constituencies are number 1. The NDC don't have that. You see, the NDC will be various positions on the parliamentary ballot across the country. But for MPP, every MPP candidate is number 1 and Dr. Bawumia is number 1. That is where the NDC is upset. But, you know, these are things that, look, they should leave with it.
But okay, so gentlemen, that is fine. This is where we are capping off the conversation. Though in the past, you have had some candidates at number 3, and unfortunately, you used your time to talk about that.
No, that's something, it's about you.
What is it, Kojo?
I'm saying that you are dripping this morning. I like your brooch. I mean, very swag. And let's not confuse that dripping with all the machines we've given to the districts. You know, it's a very good style that you have.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen.
Using as campaign tools, Kojo.
Thank you.
What are you talking about?
So, please, I think we have to mute these two gentlemen. They will not leave us to have our show. Happy birthday to my mom. Happy birthday to my mom, Mrs. Evelyn Boateng Ajiman, the best mother on the planet. I wish her good health and long life. And that is coming through from Kwame Jumo Ajiman. Kwame Jumo Ajiman. He says, I love you, Mama. Happy birthday to my mom, Mrs. Evelyn Boateng Ajiman. Sweetie.
Yes, Benjamin.
Any final thoughts?
No.
You see why I get excited when we have these two?
Yes.
They just make
your day.
They make my day.
Yeah, but we'll be wrapping up. And sports is not coming up immediately because they're launching that Joy Sports conversation. But right before we go, the Energy Commission and the Ministry of Energy, in collaboration with the Ghana Education Service and Ghana TVET Service, presents the 5th edition of the Energy Commission Senior High School's Renewable Energy Challenge. And this challenge aims to develop the research skills of senior high school students and promote technological innovation in renewable energy. And competing fiercely in this thrilling competition are the following schools: Obuasi Senior High Technical School, St. James Seminary Senior High School, Ola Girls Senior High School, Hantaman Girls Senior High School, Pando Senior High School, and Dabukpa Technical Institute. My favorite, I'm rooting for them. You want to join us for the grand finale on Tuesday, October 8, 2024 at the Accra International Conference Center, or catch it live on Joy News at 9 a.m. And this event is proudly supported by GIZ, Ashesi University, French Development Agency, and VRA. Well, we'll be back with some more on the AM show. Stick and stay.